Hey class, welcome back. We are in week 4, Respiratory Care 355. I am here in the weekly modules section and clicking in here on week 4. This is the weekly overview. And this week we're going to be talking about the social and cultural issues in health communication. So things like cultural diversity are going to come into play this week, socioeconomic status. We're going to talk about ethical leadership. So lots of potentially controversial topics. Anytime we talk about cultural diversity, we need to be respectful of our colleagues, classmates, patients, other team members, anybody that we're having the discussion with. Things like race, gender, age, all kinds of discriminations, religious beliefs, all come into play. One thing that I'd like to point out is that it's important that we tolerate, and tolerance is only possible if there's a disagreement or two people don't believe the same things. Then you can tolerate the other person and their beliefs, but you cannot have tolerance if you force someone into your own perspective or your own worldview. And if we legislate people to have to believe something or have to accept someone else's beliefs, then there's no such thing as tolerance. So tolerance requires disagreement. And the other thing is diversity. And in order to have diversity, there's got to be difference. Personally, I think diversity is what makes the human race so phenomenal. I've learned so much about different cultures over the years that it just blows me away. And one of the things I've really come to appreciate in traveling is just all of the different cultures that I experience just here in North America, let alone worldwide. And I know that a lot of our students have a lot of travel, a lot of world travel. Many of you possibly are not even from North America. And so you're providing an amazing amount of cultural diversity to our course and to our program and university. And I, for one, really appreciate that. Again, we don't have to agree on everything in order to respect each other's opinions, to talk about some of these issues that have culturally become taboo. We just have to remember that we have to do it with respect. Okay, so moving through the course, you can see the learning outcomes that are listed here. I'm not going to go through each one of those specifically. You can read them. We are going to be working on chapter 6 and 7, partial chapters in the Dupre text once again, and a handful of web links here for you to work through. Our student learning outcome this week is ethical leadership. And I'm going to just go through a couple of PowerPoint slides really quick on ethical leadership. And that's one of the things that Boise State is really focused on and dedicated to, is demonstrating ethical leadership within the profession, as well as putting it into our program courses so that our graduates will demonstrate ethical leadership when they're out in hospitals, in their facilities, whether you're managing or you're working at the bedside. It really doesn't matter. You could be doing research or teaching in the classroom. Ethical leadership is extremely important. So a couple of things to just kind of example that is to be the example, be the ethical leader that we expect and that your employees expect and that you want them to be. You need to mimic that and be the example for them. So be the champion of ethics. And communication is extremely important as well. So some contrasting models, the Machiavelli, which would be a manipulating type of individual exploiting weaknesses, the Stalins, which are using intimidation or maybe physical prowess to motivate or fear, so wielding with an iron fist. And then sort of the Gordon Geckos out there. Some of you may get that reference. Otherwise, some of the younger generation may not. But that's just sort of that greedy businessman mentality where, greed is the ultimate thing that's driving people in order to accomplish things. And really, it's at other people's expenses. And that's not ethical leadership. So here's a couple of facets of ethical leadership. You can see here justice, honesty, servitude, respect, and building community. So really just solid moral and ethical leadership values. Some of the impacts that ethical leaders will instill is the overall well-being of individuals. So yeah, you're embracing diversity. And that doesn't mean you have to agree with the other person, but you have to understand that we have differences, and you have to be able to respect and work with that other person that is quite diverse from you, and do it in a way that shows respect and value to that person. Because regardless of what someone else's beliefs are, that person has value, and they are worthy of your respect. We can disagree with them, we can have conversations about the things we disagree on, but we need to do it in a way that shows value and respect. Ethical leadership also values teamwork and values each individual member and the things that they bring. Now, that might look different with some team members that aren't contributing, and part of ethical leadership is also being just and providing outcomes and sometimes discipline to team members that are underperforming or not doing or meeting the expectations of the organization of ethical leadership. The 4V model of ethical leadership, you've probably seen this. It's probably part of your mission at your organization, but vision, values, voice, and virtue. And so all of these things we hope to instill for you as graduates of Boise State University. And here happens to be just a picture of downtown Boise looking at one of the Capitol buildings. So let's just jump back here into Blackboard, into our course. So that is SLO, again, number 5, ethical leadership. It's the third one that we've talked about so far in this class. The learning activities this week, you have a discussion board post, you have a 5-question quiz. Discussion board post is on cultural competence, and so we'll be talking about some of the socioeconomic status, health literacy, gender, race, all of these things, ethnicity, language, disabilities, all within the discussion board this week. Our week 4 assignment is another paper. It's not a full APA formatted essay paper like we did the first 2 weeks. What we're looking for this week is an outline of what your final project is going to look like. So provide the topics, the outline. You could use the APA template outline in this assignment just to simply structure the headers and the topics and the subtopics for your paper, which of course is then also going to drive your visual media, which is going to be a video of course, of you presenting that final project material that you've prepared. I also listed down here at the bottom a look ahead, because weeks 4, 5, 6, and 7 really kind of start to build upon each other in that it's all leading up to working on the final project. So you can see we're going to do an outline in week 4, and then in week 5 we're going to do a literature search and provide references for the information that you're going to be providing in your final paper as well as your final presentation. And then in week 6 you're going to actually be turning in that final paper. It's going to be the first draft, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but I do expect you to follow all of the APA format guidelines and requirements that we've learned thus far in the class, so that when I do provide you with feedback, you're able to turn in a final draft of that paper during week 7, and then also your YouTube video for your presentation of your topic in week 7, and then we'll be able to share those with the rest of the class, and you guys will be able to view each other's presentations and read each other's papers. All right, class, well, that wraps up week 4. It's a really important week. Again, just really important topics, and sometimes they can be sensitive, so just keep that in mind as you're communicating with your classmates this week from both aspects, not only in what you're saying, be sensitive of what you're saying and how that might be perceived or received on the other end, but in how you are hearing what's coming from your colleagues as well. Because we have a responsibility as individuals, if we are different from other people, we have to understand those differences, and sometimes we can play the victim in cases where it's just simply not necessary or prudent. And of course, sometimes it is. I don't want to give off the idea that as the person receiving information that it all falls squarely on your shoulders. But we do at times need to just be honest and say, okay, what are these differences, and not be quite so sensitive when someone is coming up to us to speak about an issue. Just have a casual conversation with them and understand that you don't have to agree with them. You can agree to disagree in a respectful and academic manner, and that is going to go to furthering human compassion and coming together to really learn about who each other are. Okay, thanks a lot, class. I will see you guys in week 5.